All right. Next up, we got a question from Groundskeeper Frilly. Mass-produced versus small batch boards, the good and the bad of both worlds. So basically, big brand versus small brand, as far as boards are concerned. So the benefit you really get out of going to a bigger brand is often the level of quality control is a little bit easier to trust. And the other big thing of it is customer support. Which can kind of go both ends. I could see that being both ends. You see it both ways.
Well, it comes down from brand to brand because there are some small brands. I'm like, oh god, they are fucking just shooting their customers in the foot,
right,
and themselves.
Whereas the big brands have the resources to just kind of do whatever. Like the amount of times that some of the larger brands that I've worked with are like, oh yeah, for sure not a warranty, but we're going to give them a new board anyways. Whereas a little brand might not be able to do that. They might be able to be like, I'm really sorry, that's not a warranty. We can give you 20-30% off of a new board or something like that, but they won't just give you a free one because they can't afford to do that. Where a large brand can just make them happy.
Well, because the way that their pricing model is too, it's based on how many units they make and what the price cost is. So if they make a couple hundred extra just in case for warranty, and then they've got it sitting there, and then in the fall they can always just liquidate it if they have to. Yeah. The issue that I've encountered with the big versus small is, when you get a factory that's running like 3 shifts and they're rushing to get stuff, there's always something. Like there was that year that the Capita Stairmaster Extremes top sheet would blow off. The Rome, I think it was the Crail's top sheet would blow off because they never put the epoxy down when they put it into the press. So there's just a graphic. So the heat was just enough to stick the plastic to the wood. And the second the board would hit cold, it would just release everything and it would just curl right up and stuff. There's that. It's good and bad with both of them, and it comes down to what you're looking for. It really comes down to brand by brand more than anything.
Yeah, honestly.
And
because we can point out big brands that are shit, and we can point out small brands that are shit. So
and
definitely more small brands that are shit, but it's hard to be a big brand and be shit. But yeah,
it's hard to continuously stay at a big brand. But they have those like bad years where they just had bad production runs or stuff.
It happens.
Every brand goes through that at some point. There's always like that one board that has one issue where just shit just randomly fucking happens and you're like, what the fuck is this? And it's not a knock against them being big and it's not a knock against them being small. It's just there's so many variables that people just, I don't think, understand when you're building a product.
Yeah.
They can go around. It's like those years of switchback bindings where the heel cup would snap completely from the downward pressure from the high back where it would rest. It would crack a straight line. And what it was in the injection process, it was getting a bubble right at a stress point. And so when my friend John owned the lumber yard, he's like, dude, we keep breaking these. And so I grabbed one and I just pulled it, because when it would crack and then they would still, it'd push back together, I grabbed it and pulled it apart and I was looking at it and I was like, there's an air bubble in this one. I grabbed another one. I was like, same air bubble, same air bubble, same air bubble. And it was a notorious production issue. It was something with the way the injection was going. It was causing a bubble in the heel cup and it was breaking. I've seen that. I've seen boots that just have issues like the soles blowing off. 32.
Ride had that issue that one year where the lace clip was a bad plastic, and if you pulled on it too hard too quick, it would just explode off of the boot. Like major brands have had these issues with stuff in the past.
Yeah, it's these things definitely happen. I mean, you look at it and you're like, small batch, big batch, anything that can go wrong, and it probably will go wrong, and there'll always be that one person that makes it go wrong. And that's kind of my theory on that stuff. I mean, I can remember a year going to a Burton demo, and every time I took one of their boards out, the ICS would slide on me. Every single time. And then they're like, oh, about a month later they rectified it with new hardware.
Yeah.
And then the next generation was beefed up. But like everyone, I was the only one having that issue. No one else. And I'd come back and I'd be like, yo, it's doing it again. And they're like, what are you doing? I was like, it's just the way I ride, I guess. I don't know. I've had that. I mean, I can remember being at a demo and getting a set of flow bindings, and they had a wrong disc that the teeth were milled 1 millimeter too big. So they would sit, but they would slide from pressure. And so the whole time the binding was just... And I came back and showed it to the rep, and he ended up calling the design guy, and the design guy was like, "Oh shit!" And he went down to the warehouse, and they were like, "We got to get all new discs manufactured," because I caught it that early in the season. But there's that. Or my favorite was like Omatic was a company. Todd Richards, Terry Dekitis, Andreas Vig, that they were making boards out of this the Matrix factory in China, and almost all the boards would delam right along the metal edge, right under the insert. The sidewall would separate and do it. And so I pulled one apart and I looked at it. They weren't using the rubber dampening foil between the edge. So yeah, it was built right, but that stuff grips better to the metal so that the teeth don't de-anchor. And it was doing that. So I ended up, because Echelon Snowboards was actually having stuff built there too, and they started having it. And I was like, yo, this is what's going on. They ended up calling the factory, and they were able to get it switched early enough into the production for Echelon so their boards didn't break. But it turned out that Matrix had to end up warranting anything made from them because there was a whole production run that was doing that, and they were covering it. But it slipped through QC because that's something that only...
You can't see that.
You can't see it. It's only something that will happen after perpetually riding it. And, you know, most of those boards, I mean, I did 2 Todd Richards Pros like that I blew apart, and I realized, you know, each one had like 30, 40 days on it when it happened. Like the first time I did it, I landed deep in a quarter pipe, took it almost to flat, so I was like just on the edge of the transition, and it just wooed out, and it just popped it. And the second time was at Keystone. I was trying to do a rock to fakie, or just giant disaster on the rock wall on the way back to River Run there on the right, you know, when you take the cat track, and I fucking hooked up on the rock when I slammed it, and it just blew it out. Also broke my leg on that too, but whatever. Shit happens. Didn't even know I broke my leg for like 4 weeks. I was like, this doesn't look right. My leg looks bent. And then I'm like grabbing it and it was moving all weird. And they're like, yeah, it's broken. I was like, oh, oops.
Good times.
Good times. Yeah, shit happens. But there's really no pro or con. It's like the only thing you can hope for is that you have a company that genuinely cares.
Yeah, I think that's the more pressing concern. And unfortunately, it's not a big production versus small production that can really determine this, but find a company whose customer service is responsive and a brand that actually cares that you're riding their stuff.
Yeah.
Because that, whether big or small, is going to give you the biggest, like, that's going to assure the most that what you're getting is going to be good because they care enough to make sure that what they're sending out is good, and that if anything does go wrong, they're going to take care of you.
I think that's pretty much everything you can say about that.
Yeah.